all of a sudden it's September, and there's still quite a few things that we can do through September to get seeds underway so we can get plants out for overwintering. There's not as much in September as there has been in previous months. The later into the year we get, the less there is to do, but there is something, and we'll go over a few of them week by week. I think one of the main things that we want to be concentrating on is something that I've been doing over the last few weeks, which is making sure that I've got more sowings of salads. Just because it starts to get a little bit colder doesn't mean I don't want salads. Just a little bit of something on the side of a plate. Fresh homegrown salad to pop in your sandwiches. I don't ever want to put myself in a position where I might fancy a little bit of something like that, and the only option I've got is to go to the supermarket and buy it. So I prioritise on those, and I have already got quite a few containers on go. And as we start harvesting them, which we did this week, I will sow fresh containers of more salad leaf. Not arting lettuces, they'll take too long to grow. So you're better off doing all the leafy lettuce that you can find in different varieties and colours. Plant some mustard and also radish. Because radish is very cold hardy and it's the fastest growing vegetable that you can plant. And of course you can harvest that via the leaves or bulbs. One thing that you will be doing during September is taking cuttings from your fruit bushes. So if you've got red berries or white berries, gooseberries or blackcurrant bushes, you can start and cut these back, and then you can take cuttings off those plants as well to grow on for next year, which is something I'll probably be doing in a couple of weeks' time, once we've harvested what will probably be the last of the fruits for this season. We've also got a dwarf pear tree in garden as well, and you might have pear trees, you might have peach trees, but we'll get to a point once again where we'll be taking harvest from those, and it's usually between now and end of September we'll be taking last of fruits off those, so then we need to prune those back. They're not going to grow us any more fruit at this time of year, but if we prune them back we can encourage fresh growth ready for spring. So that's something that's worth looking into if you've got any dwarf fruit trees that are just coming ready for harvesting. During week 1 of September we should have cabbages that's ready to harvest, and you can harvest your cabbages at whatever stage you want. You can wait for them to get quite big or just take baby cabbages. I prefer to take the cabbages at an average size. I don't want huge things, although if we got ones that were really big we could always blanch and freeze any excess cabbage that we got. And we've got loads of videos on his cooking channel showing you how we blanch, freeze, pickle and do whatever we need to preserve gluts of fruit and vegetables that we get through season. There's a link to a cooking channel in description if you want to pop over there, so you can see the sort of things that we do to ensure that we've still got something in that freezer during the colder months. Apart from sowing salads, I'll also be resowing more spring onions, and I'll encourage that growth by putting them in containers and growing them in greenhouse. But spring onions are perfectly alright to plant outside and grow through cold months as well. If, like me, you like to harvest the green tops more than anything, then you can do a multi-sowing of spring onions in containers, get those underway, and you'll get 2 or 3 cuttings from those green tops before you exhaust those plants. But I've done it a couple of times in past, and then I've left them alone, and those green tops have still grown back, and I've then harvested bulbs as well. So spring onions is a good one to keep going for as long as possible. Also spinach as well. Spinach bolts in warm temperatures. So I like to sow spinach in September, and we've got a container outside as well, and I'll show you how that's doing. These are a Savoy cabbages and they're doing really well. That one's now got a really nice sized head on it, but I am going to leave that a little longer. And then we've got other ones that's not quite as far advanced but still trying. So we're looking forward to getting a nice harvest coming up towards the end of September. And then I've got some more in this bed as well. And once again they're now starting to form heads. So butterflies are still around, so we still need to keep this netting over, so we don't want caterpillars chewing all those leaves away. And then I've got a few more on this side, and these aren't Savoys, these are Durham. So they're an early cabbage, so they'll grow quite quickly, and you can see that that one again is making a nice pointy head, so that's going to be ready for an harvest probably at the end of September. That's a spinach container, and we've already took a bit of an harvest of these small leaves, but we multi-sowed this, so we've got loads of growth going on, and we can keep harvesting that and letting it grow back. If we wanted, we could even prick out some of these individual plants and put them in a container on their own to grow on into individual plants. But for the moment, I'm quite happy picking spinach leaves, and we know that it's not going to get too hot now, so these plants won't bolt. So you can see we've got quite a few nice looking cabbages out there, and a mixture of two types. We've got the Savoys, which are now starting to art up really nice, and then we've got some Durham early cabbage. If you wanted to sow some more cabbage, you could do. It is getting a little bit late if you haven't already got some growing. But I recently pricked some cabbages out, and we're letting them grow on in these containers to get a little bit bigger, and I'll probably be doing about 6 more from what we've got left, because we multi-sow them in little containers. We prick out the little seedlings and then we move them on into their own individual little cells, so they grow that bit quicker, and they're going to be as spring cabbages. So as soon as they get to a decent size, we'll get them planted. But I think this year I'm going to plant those in the greenhouse like I did the red cabbages last year, and they did really well because they just got that little bit of extra protection through colder months of winter. But these are on the way, they've got the true leaves, so we'll just keep growing these until they get a few inches tall, and then towards the end of September we can get those planted out. But you've also seen we've got that spinach on go, and we just multi-sow spinach. We don't try and grow individual plants. We put them in containers, we put lots of seeds in, and then we pick the leaves, and it's cut and come again salad, because you take all the bigger leaves and then the little ones will then grow on, and you'll get another cutting and another, usually up to 3 cuttings from a container, which in a container that size is quite a lot of spinach. So if you haven't got any spinach growing or spring onions, then maybe try a few of those in containers. At least if you put them in containers, you can keep them raised up on a bench away from those slugs. And it's normally the second week in September when you're planting out your cabbages. We're going to be a bit later with those than we normally are because of the way the year's gone, but it doesn't mean we still won't get something in return in late spring. We've also got some carrots growing outside, and once you get into the second week of September, you're probably going to have some carrots ready, depending on when you sowed them. But we just sow ours through the year. We just stagger them. As some come ready, we sow some more. We do some in containers, indoors, and in container garden, and then we put some in ground. But we only put the ones in the ground that are varieties such as resistor fly, because carrot root fly is a very low level flying insect. So when you plant them and you raise beds, it's perfect for them to get to. If you raise your containers of carrots more than 60 centimetres off the ground, carrot root fly doesn't fly that high, so it can't get to them, and that's why we grow them in containers and raise them on benches once again. But in the raised beds outside, we have got some, which are those resistor flies, which I thought I'd try this year and see if we can get a decent harvest. And the same goes with your parsnips. You should have parsnips coming ready, and it's up to you if you want to harvest some of those now as small parsnips or leave them to grow on. And remember, if you get a frost on your parsnips, that won't kill your parsnip, that just makes those parsnips sweeter. If we just pop outside again, we'll have a look at how these carrots are getting on that we've got planted, and whether or not it's time to maybe take a few up, while at the same time resowing seeds in some more containers. And that's our raised bed, and you can see we've got some really good sized carrots in there, and they look very healthy. Next to them we've got some beetroot as well, which we're going to be harvesting quite soon because they've got to a very big size. If you can see those there, really good sized beetroots. We'll probably harvest some of these over the next month or so and get some pickled. And next to that we've got some spring onions, they're ready to be pulled. But it's these carrots that we're looking at, and if we look down there, you can see this carrot It's got a really big top to it. And it's perfectly orange. And that's because we keep these tops covered up. If you don't cover the tops of your carrots up, they will turn green. It won't hurt the rest of the carrot, but it can gradually spread down. And I think I might take one of these out and see what sort of size we've got. There's a smaller one next to it. I'll try not to disturb that. I'll just twist this and hopefully it won't break. And you can see we've got a really good sized carrot there, and I can see there's another one right beside it. But we're going to leave those to grow on. I can also see that down here there's a carrot and its top showing. It's not gone green yet though, so lucky we've had a quick check of those. We'll just bury the top of that carrot, because we don't want any of these carrots having green tops on them. I think that will definitely worth a quick look. That is a really good thick carrot, and it's quite straight as well, so I'm really pleased with that. And resistor fly carrot, so there's no damage to it. So it looks like that variety really does work. So what we'll do is, when we come to sow some more carrots, whether it be this year or next, we'll do a lot more of these, and we now know we can do them outside in those raised beds and they're not going to get damaged. But a couple of those a week is plenty for me. So I've took this one out knowing I've got another one in fridge, and we can just let those carrots carry on growing now, making sure those tops are always covered. They're perfectly cold hardy and they'll just get bigger. We've been going through quite a few potatoes as well this year, and by now you should have emptied all your second earlies. They should have been ready at the end of July. But we have had a bit of a strange year weather-wise, so maybe some are a bit later than others. And sometimes you get scab on your potatoes, and the longer you leave them in that compost, the worse that scab's going to get. So sometimes it's a good idea to empty one and see if you've got nice clean potatoes. But if you find any that have got scab on them, the chances are all the rest will have that as well. So in that situation, I will basically just empty them all. You're not really supposed to harvest all your main crop potatoes at the end of August, beginning of September. They should stand quite a bit longer to produce bigger potatoes, and then you should cut the tops off them as those plants die back and let them sit there unwatered for about 2 weeks. And then that will make the skins on those potatoes tougher, and then you can store them for months. I don't think that is going to happen this year, unfortunately. I think this coming week I'll be emptying what's left of our main crop potatoes and just putting it down to quite a poor season because of the 6 weeks of rain that we had and the up and down temperatures. But we'll ensure we get something, rather than waiting and waiting and then finding out that those potatoes did have a little bit of a problem that only got worse over the next few weeks and left us with pretty much nothing. So maybe check one of your containers or pull a plant up if they're in ground and just see how they're getting on. And for me, I would rather cut my losses if I see even slightest problem with anything, just to ensure an harvest, because they take a long time to grow. When we get to the second, third week in September, it's time to think about planting your overwinter onions. So there'll be Japanese overwintering onions. There's a couple of different varieties that you can get, and you'll buy them as sets, not seeds. So if you're planning on growing some onions through autumn and winter, ready to harvest in mid-spring, then the middle of September will be the time to get those onion sets planted. And they'll stand all the way through those harsh cold conditions, and you'll get an early harvest of onions. Round about the same time, you'll be getting ready to put your first sets in for new season. And while we're on week 3, week 4 of September, you might have planted some Swede. I didn't do any this year because I was experimenting with other bits and bobs, and I completely forgot about sowing Swede. But if you did, those Swedes should be ready for harvesting round about now. They should have got to quite a big size, along with turnips as well. So give those a check if you've got any of those, and basically you harvest those at a size that's suitable for you, but just keep your eye out for any damage as well. If you see little holes appearing, then that may get worse and ruin the whole thing. So at that point, I would take them up. But you can also sow seeds now to grow baby turnips, and you'll harvest those round about the same size as you would a radish. So baby turnips might be an option for you to grow. And the ones that I grew last year were called Snowball, and they're quite fast growing ones. You can harvest those from golf ball size upwards. So maybe give those a try. They're very cold hardy. Apart from that, there's not much or anything else that you're going to be doing apart from plant maintenance. You know that your tomatoes and your peppers are all going to start to die back as it gets colder, along with your cucumbers and courgettes. So we'll be taking those down when they're finished. We'll clear all the ground, and then we'll think about getting other things planted in the place to try and overwinter. And also you need to keep on top of that weeding. We know that leaves are going to start to decay a little bit faster as it gets damper, and especially with any cabbages that we've got growing waiting to be harvested over the next few weeks. We also want to make sure they're all nice and clear. So keep checking around the bottoms of those cabbages, and if you see any yellowing leaves, take those away, because that's just a massive invitation to slugs. So although the light levels are going to drop and the temperatures are going to drop along with it, we can still grow things. We'll move back to growing the cold hardy stuff. We'll try and get as much going over the next few weeks as we possibly can, so that while we're harvesting the things that are going to be coming ready from a summer sowings, we can now replace them with those overwintering ones. And don't forget, if you haven't planted some already, maybe start some lamb's lettuce, because that's the most cold hardy lettuce that there is out there. And just before I go, I want to say thank you so much to Andrew Weston for making that PayPal donation yesterday. It was really generous and kind of you to do that, and it's massively appreciated. And we'll use that money towards these autumn winter plantings. So thank you very much for that, Andrew. So you've got a few things now that you can do, whether you want to do them or you might want to wait until next spring to start again. Don't think that there aren't some things that you can still be growing. And don't get caught in that trap of fancying a little bit of side salad and then realising you never sowed the seeds, so you've got to go to the supermarket and buy it. If you're interested in seeing what we're going to be doing over the weekend, please hit that subscribe button, press that notifications bell, and I look forward to seeing you then. You all take care.